There we go. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and this is my first special guest. It's Mary Jo Foley. How you doing, Mary Jo?
Hi,
Thanks
Jeff.
so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So we're here at Build 2019. How you doing out there, chat room? There's our friend Carrie Payette, and I see Oscar is out there joining us. Motown Andy, good to see you. Build's been, we're a day and a half in here. We've had our first keynote. We saw Satya give a little bit of a talk. We saw Guthrie give a little bit of a talk. Everybody loves to hear from. I've got to play his sound effect. Scott. We love hearing from the Scott in the red shirt. What were the big impressions? What were the things for enterprise developers that you want to take away from that initial keynote and say, "Wow, this is cool. This is something we need to learn and keep our eyes on."
Yeah. So I think one of the big announcements for me was what Microsoft's doing with Chromium-based Edge.
Yes. Yes.
Which I call CREDGE.
I'll let you have that. That sounds a little strange.
It is. It's not the best, but you need to distinguish it from the current Edge.
Okay.
So Edge Spartan, Edge Chromium-based.
Spartan. The fact that we lost that name.
I know.
Oh.
I know. But the thing that I thought was really interesting for enterprise in the announcement from Build was IE mode as a tab.
Yes.
Edge.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Instead of having that second browser hanging around.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who's built a website or an app that still requires IE, it's not going to be so awkward anymore.
Right.
You're not going to have to go out, go to IE. You're going to be able to stay in Edge and just go to IE mode.
Even on our internal websites, we had buttons that we would click to go to, HR dashboard or something, and the little toolbar would appear at the top of Edge that says, "Click this button to open in Internet Explorer." I'm like,
you're like, what?
we make both browsers.
I
You
know.
can't.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I know. So I thought that was big. Anything they're doing around the Chromium-based Edge, I think, is going to have a lot of impact, especially on people doing PWAs, right?
Yeah, those progressive web apps.
Right.
They're tricky to build, but to have that support from Chromium.
Right, and built into the browser.
Huge.
Right. Yeah. So I think all those things are really interesting. I also like the AI announcements. Some of them are a little futuristic, but some of the stuff they showed when they introduced HoloLens 2 with like Azure Spatial Anchors.
Yes. Okay.
I thought it was very big.
All right. So our friend Tim Huckabee was here yesterday and was talking to us about Azure Spatial Anchors. They can map down to. He was saying 2 inches.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
That is insane. It is. So the idea is, you're wearing a HoloLens, or at some point just looking on your phone
Right.
in your browser, and you can see anchors that people have left to help guide you geographically.
Right, but I look at I'm wearing a snazzy jacket, and I've probably got about a couple hundred spatial anchors on me.
Wow.
I'm like, right? It's like, right? Is that necessary? Down to 2 inches? I don't know.
I know.
There's a privacy concern that I have there.
That's true. I guess I was thinking bigger picture for it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you remember this, but years ago when Microsoft used to do those, and they call them envisioning videos.
Yes.
Right, so they'd show you the future, and they always showed this one where someone was walking through an airport that they had never been to, they're looking on their phone, and they see things popping up in their view, right? They see, here's where the rooms are where you can go do a private meeting. Here's where the taxis are. And so that's because there are anchors built in to their visual field, right? And
yes.
I'm like, okay, this is starting to get interesting, because I'm one of those people who I like HoloLens 2. I think it's really cool technology, but I'm always thinking, but what are people really going to do with it?
They're gonna put their Excel spreadsheets on the walls, so when it comes accounting time, they can just walk over to the wall and say, "Here." And
when you see those demos, you're like, why would I want to do that? I don't
right,
know.
right. And they put they put all their images up on the wall. They had a virtual whiteboard.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I question the accessibility of that technology.
Well,
I can't walk into a Microsoft store, a Best Buy, and pick it up.
Yeah.
If you can't even put your hands on it.
I know. Yeah.
Well,
they did announce the dev kit.
Yes.
So it's going to cost you $3,500, so you get the HoloLens.
Okay.
You get some Azure services, Azure credits. But the thing that to me was interesting and puts it more into possibly more hands is $99 per month.
$99 a month.
Rental, right?
Okay.
So that way, if you want to kick the tires and you're like, I don't know, do I want to develop for HoloLens? Do I think this is going to be interesting? You can try it out, and it's not just plunk down $3,500 and maybe I'll do something with it, or maybe I won't.
Right.
Right.
It's the closer we can get it to that consumer space, I think the better the uptake will be.
I'm laughing because is Microsoft doing anything in consumer space anymore except gaming?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway.
So another big announcement that came yesterday that's near and dear to me and my blazer is .NET 5.
Right.
I feel like this is like Back to the Future for .NET.
Kind of, right?
When .NET first came out, it was the runtime that ran everywhere, and everywhere was
Windows,
because
Yeah.
Windows was everywhere.
Right.
But now everywhere is IoT devices, the cloud,
Yep.
the mobile devices, our phones. We're going to get .NET everywhere in one .NET.
I know. Well, at least in theory, right?
Right.
Because I felt like the .NET 5 thing was a lot of branding as much as it was roadmap.
Yes.
So .NET Framework 4.8 isn't going to go away.
No, absolutely not.
Which is a good thing.
Right. It's going to stay on Windows.
Right.
It'll be with Windows going forward.
And it won't get new features.
It won't. Right.
Right. Brand new features. But it's good from a legacy standpoint that's not going to completely go away. But the kind of overriding goal is .NET everywhere, one .NET.
Yes.
That simplifies the story a lot.
So to be able to go from that .NET standard declared interface that we think works everywhere, and be able to say, well, it's not just a standard, but this is now the way it is, and we can swap out runtimes.
Right, and you don't have to think .NET Standard, .NET Framework, .NET Core, what am I talking about, right?
Exactly. It's going to become much clearer, easier for folks to on-ramp and learn, and hopefully whole new world of applications that we're able to go across.
Right.
Did you notice there was a little call out in there about Java interoperability?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say, if anybody saw that.
Objective-C and Swift at some point.
Right. Because we need to be able to use the Xamarin and Mono features to build apps that run on the phone.
It's just kind of like a little footnote. And by the way, Java. Right.
Like, oh my gosh, we're going to go back to Java again. This is great.
I know. Yeah, that was kind of there. You know what's funny? At this build, there were a lot of announcements like that where it was like you get the big announcement, and by the way,
yes,
like the other one, WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, version 2. Oh yeah, we built a Linux kernel.
What? Linux kernel?
Right. I know.
So does that mean 2019 is the year of Linux on the desktop?
I knew you were going to say that. Kind of. So the Microsoft built their own custom Linux kernel, open sourced. They're going to contribute the changes back to the community.
Fantastic. Always love seeing working with the community.
Right. The one little thing they didn't really bring up clearly, I didn't think, is hypervisor still underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. You know, it's like, okay, it's one more step for WSL past where it is right now, which is emulation. But they just kind of threw that out there as a footnote. Oh yeah, by the way, we did build our own Linux kernel, and all your distributions are going to just stick on top of that, and it's going to work.
It's just going to work.
I know.
I love that. And I mean, there was already a Linux kernel out there around Azure Sphere.
Right.
Right, and some of the internals for running Azure were Linux kernels that they did contribute back.
Right.
So it's not unheard of, but putting it in consumer hands.
Putting it in Windows 10.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big step.
It is.
So I've got to call out, Janescu was already hinting at the next cool thing on that Windows topic, the Windows Terminal.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Terminal app,
Right.
With tabs.
With tabs.
And emoji.
And emoji. Because everybody needs emoji.
I know. Why is emoji in it, though? I was a little puzzled by that myself.
Don't get me wrong. I love emotes, and we've got new emotes on the channel out there for all the subscribers. You can check those out.
Yeah.
But when I see emotes also in code, there's a readability thing that stops for me.
Right.
You know, don't get me wrong. It's great fun.
It is. No, it's very fun.
Oh, yeah. And to be able to have console apps and console games that use it, terrific.
Right.
But I don't want to name an app a coffee cup. You know, the coffee cup emote. Sorry.
I guess some people do, but...
You have that option.
Right, you have that option.
That's not what I want to do. Maybe I'm old like that.
No, I think the tabs part is cool, though.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Rich Turner, who's the main guy on WSL, he was hinting on Twitter a week ago or so, like, tabs are going to come to WSL. He just didn't say how, right?
Right, because we lost sets.
Yeah, sets are gone.
You know what? I never really got sets.
You were not the only one.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's why sets are gone. It was a cool idea in theory, but when you actually came down to the implementation, it wasn't consistent, and you were going to ask developers to do a lot of work to make their apps work with sets.
Yes.
Right?
So what I ended up doing a bit to work around with the terminal was I would try and use tmux locally.
Yep.
So I mean, it feels clumsy on Windows, but all this month on my stream, we're coding with a Mac.
Oh, cool.
So we want to show Azure and .NET and Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio for Mac work great. So I'm using Tmux over there.
Yeah.
And okay, this is great.
Yeah.
But now to have tabs and feel more like a Windows developer in the console.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
it's a good place for me, you know?
Yeah,
I'd really like to be able to dock the tabs like you can in Visual. I'm a Visual Studio guy.
Maybe one day. Oh, can I ask you a Visual Studio question?
Please.
Okay, this is candid. This is not rehearsed.
Not at all.
Visual Studio Online.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a big deal or a gimmick?
I think it's going to be a big deal.
You do?
Because when you look at the developing world, right? Folks don't have access to the power of a Surface Book, right?
Always.
Or
you might be on the go or whatever.
Exactly. So if they want to get access to a good IDE, be able to profile, be able to debug, and you've got something that's more than just a little application, to be able to have access to that Visual Studio Online, and even we saw a little bit with the Visual Studio Code remoting. I think that's a great access, a great point for those folks. And then where we haven't really touched on yet, being able to collaborate over that.
Right.
So LiveShare, we already know, is a tremendous asset. We use LiveShare sometimes here on stream.
Nice.
You're going to think this is weird. I'll open up LiveShare read-only, so while I'm writing code, folks in the chat room can connect and actually navigate around the code.
Oh, wow. Let's see.
Yeah, like, do I really want these folks? Exactly, right? So that's kind of neat to do. But being able to have that central place that folks can connect into, I think is going to be a good thing. And then folks who have tablets.
Right. Oh, yeah, true.
Right? And this, you have a Surface Go, don't you?
I do.
Those get lit up now, and they'll be able to use Visual Studio.
True.
We're running all of Visual Studio 2019.
You would never do that.
No.
I mean, you maybe could, but why would you?
A couple of folks in the chat room have installed it, and they've gotten it running, but they've said it's not a great experience. It can be done.
Yeah.
Can be done versus enjoying it.
Yeah.
Two different things.
Yeah, for sure. So maybe VS Online will be their solution.
Right. Now, okay, I've got to ask you. There were a lot of folks talking about the name, Visual Studio Online versus the old Visual Studio Online.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think of that. I did not.
I scooped Mary Jo. No.
Oh my.
Yes, oh my indeed.
No, because I guess the reason they did it was like Word Online, Excel Online, PowerPoint Online. Like, they wanted to keep that as a consistent theme. If you're using the web-based version of anything from Microsoft, it's going to be called Online.
And it makes sense. I'm kind of glad they didn't rename Azure DevOps this year. They were kind of due.
I know.
Right?
Didn't we just do that?
Didn't we just? No,
Although now there's ML Ops. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So at Build here, they're talking about machine learning ops.
Okay.
Another kind of ops.
Okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yep.
But my concern with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and I'd love to hear your point of view on this.
Yep.
It's really great to hear Microsoft promoting it, and the big enterprises that have access to data scientists and terabytes of data to do that analysis.
Right.
They can really take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But when I think about the startup,
I know.
the small company, the mom and pop shop,
Yeah.
they can't even think about artificial intelligence because they just want to be able to sell product.
You know what I think? I think if you're a smaller company, that kind of your gateway drug to AI is cognitive services.
Yes.
Right? Because this is an API you can add into your app. Like, say you want to try out speech. What if I could add some intelligent speech service to my app?
Mm-hmm.
Get the API for speech services, put it in your app, and start figuring out how that could help you. Instead of looking at the big picture, like, now I'm going to start doing models and training them and using Azure ML. I don't think you should start like way up there. I think you should start down here.
Just getting a little bit of sentiment analysis.
I mean, you're the developer. I'm just the journalist.
So one thing that I've done, I'd love your opinion on this. When we normally run the show, with my nameplate down here, I actually do sentiment analysis on every comment in the chat room. And I put a 5-minute average there. So I can see whether the chat room is happy or sad.
You're doing something terrible?
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So and I use it a little bit as, is this a good topic? Do I continue on this topic? Or do we need to shift?
Okay.
What do you think? Is that going a little bit overboard?
No,
is
do
that
it.
Yes. Okay.
Why not?
So
why not? You want your audience to be happy.
Exactly. The only trick that I haven't figured out is when people put a smiley face, and we've got a bunch of emotes that are popping up there in the chat room. When folks poke, well, there you go.
That.
There's Carrie with the gritty emotes. Thank you for those. Is gritty happy or sad?
Right. Are you gritting?
I don't know.
Don't grit on a stone, please.
No, don't at all. Thank you, Brave Cobra, for the smiley. If the sentiment was up here, yeah, that would. The smileys, it actually identifies and raises the number.
Okay.
Now, what becomes interesting is people start to gamify sentiment analysis.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of giving that to smaller companies.
Yeah.
But when folks can see it, you should see how happy the chat room gets when they see the numbers start dipping. They're like, no, make it happen. It's
awesome.
Great. Gareth out here says, I've played with text recognition for it, but not overly accurate for the speed that I need. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting to hear.
It is.
There's definitely something to be said for as these commodity services become available from Azure, and folks can jump onto it.
Yep.
In cognitive services, there was an announcement about some updates as well.
There were a bunch of updates to cognitive services. They also introduced a whole new category they're calling decision.
Yeah.
So this is like a cognitive service that'll let you take the pain out of A/B testing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the theory of it anyway. There's like an anomaly service. You know, if you're seeing anomalies in your data.
I think that would be terrific to use with security.
Yes, it would. Like when you see a blip on something and you're like, what just happened there? Right?
Why am I getting all these weird logins for you outside of your region? That type of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you can use it that way, but that would kind of make sense in theory.
Yeah.
And then just some more general ones about helping people figure out how to decide on something using AI instead of doing it through A/B testing or just kind of by your gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think people like this. Instead, like, I can actually find out what people like.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, kind of like your sentiment analysis.
Exactly. I can find out immediately.
Yeah.
Gareth is saying that he's using his image analysis to identify trading cards. Oh, okay. That's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
All right. I know there's a couple folks actually on Twitch that they have cameras above their playing table, so when they're playing games, it'll do the analysis and it'll identify these are the cards or where the board pieces are. Sure it is. If you're in a room with folks, you put a camera above pointing down at your game, absolutely.
It sounds like a Las Vegas, stacking the blackjack thing.
No, that would I think you're thinking a little bit like the lipstick cameras they call it on the poker tables.
Yeah. Not
those. No.
Not those.
So just haven't gotten to the point where you can mount the camera yet. Very cool, Gareth. That's great to hear.
Cool. Yep.
Gareth's another live streamer. He's in the UK and he streams about F# in the afternoons.
Oh, nice.
So there's a bunch of folks like that are joining us here in the chat room. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah.
So we've got about another day and a half here. I know you've got an event this evening.
We do.
You want to talk a little bit about that for folks that are in town?
Right. If you're in town and tonight you want to meet some of the bloggers and Microsoft people who are here from different teams.
I don't know anybody who might be there.
We're having an event at the Pine Box, which is very close to the convention center, 7 to 9 p.m. You don't need to RSVP. And the Pine Box, if you don't know what it is, it's a craft beer bar on Capitol Hill, and it's called the Pine Box because it used to be a mortuary. I know, not that appetizing, but they have excellent beer.
Well, okay, that's good. All right, and my challenge is, so I'm celiac. I need to be gluten free.
I think they have ciders as well. Ciders, I believe they have wine. They have very good food, so it's open to anyone. You just have to pay your own tab, but
that's fine.
You can hobnob with all kinds of excellent people who will be showing up.
Excellent people. I know we've got a couple of folks from the Live Coders team that are going to join us tonight.
Nice.
More Twitch streamers coming in.
Excellent.
So that'll be a lot of fun to see some of those folks and mix it up. Yeah. So there's one more day left here. Are you hanging around for Wednesday? Is there any other sessions you want to see as part of the event?
So today here I have a lot of meetings with different teams. Some of the AI folks. I have John Montgomery today.
Say hi to John for me.
Give me a stumping question for John Montgomery.
Visual Studio Online. How do we use it if we're not connected? Can we use Visual Studio Online on Azure Stack?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll let you know what he says.
And then if you tell him that I brought that, and you better not clip that, chat room. I'm watching you. Okay.
What about Blazor? Any good
Ask
Blazor?
him about. Okay, so when
Blazor?
Yes, the Blazer. Right. Do you need to borrow the jacket?
I might.
Ask him when Blazor is going to be released.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Because there's no date on that, right?
There's two parts to Blazor. Okay. There's a server-side Blazor that's going to be shipped with ASP.NET Core 3.
Okay. Yep.
We announced that we're going to ship that as part of .NET Conf. .NET Conf, the last week of September. It's actually right before TwitchCon.
Oh, wow. Where is that?
It's virtual.
Oh, all virtual.
Live from Channel 9 Studios. I might know who's hosting that.
Anyone I know?
Maybe. What we're going to do, You might like this. Because very much there's the Redmond reality distortion field here.
Yes.
We want to make sure we get outside that.
That's good.
So instead of going 8 to 4 Pacific time on Tuesday,
Yeah.
we're going to go 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
8 a.m. till 5 p.m. Wednesday.
Wow.
That way folks that are in Australia,
That's cool.
Asia, India.
Kind of like they just did with the Azure Global Boot Camp thing, right?
Exactly.
That was really smart.
It's amazing.
It's like you hand things off as the
You
time
got
zones
it.
go. Yeah, that's cool.
So and it's really fun coming in for graveyard shift.
Yeah.
So my friend Brady and I, we're on from 2 to 4 a.m.
That's actually fun, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's when all the
Load it up.
real coders are out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, stay up all night and code.
Well, up all night in Pacific time in Europe.
Oh, right.
They were just coming online.
That's right. That's right.
So it was breakfast with .NET Conf. So we've got that set up, and we're going to announce ASP.NET Core 3 is going to be in final release at that, but that's the server-side version.
Right.
So you remember back in the day we had ASP.NET Web Forms?
Yeah.
And you had to do funny things to get JavaScript to update.
Yeah.
Blazor does that automatically for you when you do server-side. And it connects with something called SignalR automatically.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
The client-side version is the WebAssembly thing that everybody thinks about.
Okay.
What's really interesting is it's the same programming model for both.
Okay.
And you're going to be able to just flip a switch and have it change from client-side to server-side.
Wow.
So go ahead and ask him about what's the
the
latest.
client-side Blazor thing, man?
That's the one because it just came out of experimental, and I'm celebrating it a little bit this week.
Okay.
We want to make sure that comes out and lands with a bang.
Okay.
So it's in preview, and
I'm sure I already know his answer. All right, Joe, I can't tell you that. I know, John.
Yeah.
John's not going to give anything away.
No.
for free.
We had John on the show about 2 months ago talking about the new interview process that he does.
Oh, nice.
When he brings in new folks. Really great
I bet that was really interesting.
It was interesting because we have a lot of folks that watch that are either interviewing for jobs or they're interviewing developers.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're fair.
Right. It's good.
So,
Yep.
was there anything else I wanted to talk to you about?
Oh, what did you think of Fluid Framework?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. It was kind of scarce on the details, right?
A little bit.
But the idea is speeding up co-authoring and also let you pull components from the different Office applications and maybe third-party applications and use them simultaneously on a web canvas.
When that becomes accessible and available for the public, it's a Slack killer.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're hoping, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's also going to be an SDK where they're going to give it to third-party developers and say, hey, would you like to build something using the Fluid framework so that any application you have can automatically get in on this too?
Yeah, okay.
But I don't think there were a lot of details yet, and they say more to come late this year. But
okay, so I'm going to bring that discussion full circle.
Okay.
So we know Teams hosts all of the plugins are actually HTML and JavaScript.
Right.
What if you could do HTML in Blazor?
Has anyone said that's even a thought?
So we've actually, on the .NET and Visual Studio teams, we've prototyped taking a couple of those Electron apps and putting Blazor into that instead of
Teams is
JavaScript.
an Electron app, right?
On Windows,
on
yes.
On Windows.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not far-fetched then.
It might not be too far of a stretch.
Maybe.
So, and I love me some C# in the browser.
Yeah.
So it's on the hat. This has been amazing. Any other questions that we have there? Too many people got the Wi-Fi password? No. What else is going on here? Oh my gosh. Can we suggest different names for SignalR? Socket.io has a great name. I like SignalR.
Yeah, that's not a bad name.
No, not bad at all.
What about Credge?
Okay, Credge we need to work on. We really need to work on that one. I do appreciate the difference in naming. Are you using the developer version or the Canary version?
Developer.
Okay. You can see I'm using the Canary version there.
And developer has been awesome.
It has been.
I haven't had any problems with it. I did have a problem when I used to run the old Edge on my Surface Go with TweetDeck. Because TweetDeck's super JavaScript heavy. It would just die. It would be like, but with Credge, it works really well.
Okay. I find when I'm using TweetDeck on a machine that doesn't have a lot of battery power.
Yeah, I know. Or it just never refreshes. Like, you keep trying to refresh it. Nope.
No data.
Yeah. I live and die in TweetDeck. That's like, if you look at my laptop, that's what's always open with Notepad.
Wait, what was the other one?
Notepad? Have you heard of
That's
it?
a great developer editor. You may have seen it before. It comes with every version of Windows. I'm going to ask the question. I already told you I was going to ask this question.
Yeah.
We've got a new version of Terminal coming out. Wouldn't it be great if we had a new version of Notepad?
Would it be great? It depends. depends. So
I want to be able to put emojis in Notepad.
all right. You know what I don't want them to do? Notepad 3D or some crazy.
No.
Like, Notepad is really great because it's simple. I always say to the Notepad team, leave Notepad alone. Like, it's good as it is.
Didn't they start doing something with being able to support the different line endings?
Yeah, I mean, and that's good for developers. And most people who use Notepad probably are developers.
Well, I'm also thinking not just developers, but for folks who are editing Markdown files.
True, right.
You need to
Also-
share it with other folks. You want to make sure that
Right.
you don't break compatibility with them.
I just don't want them to do all the crazy stuff they've been doing with a lot of these Fluent apps. Like, everybody's like, wouldn't it be cool if Notepad got Fluent design? I'm like, do we need that? No. Do we need a command bar on top of Notepad? Do we?
No, I don't
Right?
need a search feature on
You don't.
Notepad like that.
You don't.
I've got Control F.
Right. I don't know. I'm more in the camp, keep Notepad simple.
Can we get that on a T-shirt?
We should. Leave my Notepad alone.
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, that's so good. Well, thank you very much, Mary Jo.
Yeah,
This is
thanks.
great.
It's
I
really
really
fun.
appreciate you stopping
very
by.
fun.
Oh yeah, we'll see you tonight
Yes, we will.
at the Build
The
Blogger
Pine
Bash.
Box.
At the Pine Box for the Build Blogger Bash.
Yes.
Very cool. I'm going to mute your mic so we can let you go. Thanks so much.
Thanks, that's fun.
Oh yeah. And while Mary Jo's clearing out here, there you go. I'll take off the name and we'll get ready for my next guest. Take care. Oh my God.